You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow seekers of truth. I welcome you to yet another riveting episode of the DOCtalk Show, brought to you by Quiz Mali Productions and sponsored by the Ministry of Health of Uganda and its partners. I am Dr. Muyanga and Mark, your host tonight on the journey into the world of medicine. On the 29th of this month, we were hit with the news of the loss of a young woman of 32 years, and she succumbed to Ebola disease. So I wanted to start this show by informing all our viewers out there that Ebola is back. Let us be careful. Let us take all necessary precautions to prevent the spread of this disease. Basic things like washing your hands with soap and water or using alcohol-based sanitizers, avoiding physical contact with especially body fluids of someone who you suspect to be having some of the signs of Ebola disease, such as a high fever, headaches, diarrhea. They are bleeding from places such as gums and other openings on the body, to name but a few. Kindly take care of yourself. Your life has no spares. The topic of discussion this evening is NCDs in HIV, and I would like to warmly welcome our panelists this evening, and I am humbly requesting that they introduce themselves, starting from my far left. You are welcome to the DOCtalk Show.
Thank you, Doc. Good evening, viewers. I am Dr. Byamukama, Daniel. I work with the Uganda AIDS Commission. The Uganda AIDS Commission is the overall coordinating agency for the HIV response in this country, and it is under the office of the President.
You're welcome, and it's a pleasure having you once again on this show. And let us hear from the lady right next to me.
Thank you, Andrew. Good evening, viewers. I am COMMUNICABLE Flavia, the Executive Director, National Forum of People Living with HIV Networks in Uganda. We are the umbrella of all people living with HIV networks, groups and organizations, and our role is to mobilize communities to demand for HIV and related services, also to demand that government allocates more resources to health so that we have better health, and also build the capacities of our communities to be able to engage with policymakers, with partners, to ensure that we have better health outcomes towards ending AIDS by 2030.
Thank you so much, and welcome once again. In December of last year, I visited my people in Bunyore, and it was interesting to listen to some of my people telling me about some of the gestures I make on this show. They tune in, and certainly that helped me to understand that we have a wide coverage. And so whenever I'm starting, I usually ask the question of, if my grandmother was watching you from deep in Bunyore, would you mind explaining to her what a non-communicable disease is? Simple terms for her to be part of the discussion. Dr. Daniel, I think I throw that to you.
Thank you. I'll try my best. I don't know, you not tell me the name of your grandmother. I would have to greet her. But for the grandmother outside there listening, so the non-communicable disease are those diseases which you wake up one morning and you have them. You don't have to acquire them from another person. You do not travel and shook hands like for Ebola, and you picked it from the person who has Ebola. You do not have unprotected sex with another person and you contracted them like HIV. So they are non-communicable. They don't get transmitted from one person to another, but because of our lifestyles and because of the other things, including the genes, we find we have these diseases. I can give you an example. These days, they're actually a leading cause of death. If you are going to go for a funeral of an adult, it is likely going to be hypertension because he got a stroke. Yeah. It's because he got a heart failure. Yes. It is because he was diabetic. He has diabetes. So such diseases, including chronic lung diseases, including mental health. We have so many people with mental health challenges now. Butabika is full. So all those fall in a category of non-communicable. If you have your disease, you cannot transmit to another person. Wow. But we can tell you how possibly it could have come to be to have that disease.
Thank you so much. I believe if she's watching, she's shaking her head in agreement with your submission. And in that vein, Flavia, why do you think we should be concerned about these non-communicable diseases?
Thank you very much, Andrew. And the non-communicable diseases are really a threat to this country. And for those of us who live with HIV or have other chronic illnesses, we do know that when you have a weakened immunity, some of these body imbalances happen, and then you get some of those diseases like diabetes. You can get, a lot of things. But I also want to also tag it to HIV. Tonight, I would like to tag the non-communicable diseases to living with HIV. So when we live with HIV, we do know that our life expectancy is cut short by about 5 years because of the inflammations that we get. And those inflammations, I think they are non-communicable. They are by virtue of the fact that we live with HIV that they do happen. The other way I would like to tag them to HIV is because as we age, there are certain hormones that reduce in the body. And when we come to menopause or andropause, our body organs are exposed to those non-communicable diseases. And some of these non-communicable diseases, like the brain weaknesses, the dementias, the forgetfulness, yes. Osteoporosis, the weakness of the bones by inference when we age, we use calcium through our usual excretion, and we are not even sure. We don't even know to be able to replace that calcium. But we do know that, for instance, when we age and we cease menstruation, our hormones that have been supporting the cardio, the brain, the bone reduces significantly. And so we are prone to these non-communicable diseases if we don't discover or know our aging process. If we don't discover how our body works and when we age, what happens. But also, I would like to link the non-communicable diseases to the HIV treatment. Some HIV treatment is contraindicated in people who are above 40. So if you're going to get or give treatment, you need to see whether this treatment is good for this person because of maybe their history, their family, they have diabetes, some medication shouldn't be given. And if you find that people are prone to fractures or they already have weak fractures, some weak medication. So in the current circumstances where we have no choice about the drug regimen that we have, because being that we depend on partners and donors, we are all enrolled on what is available. So it is often uniform medication for all, irrespective of whether we have histories. It is a try and error. Give them. If it is bad, they come back. Then we change. So as people living with HIV, we are also getting around because in our one group that we have, a WhatsApp group, almost every month you hear of a person with HIV who is of age 40 and above dying. They are not dying of TB, no, they are dying of pancreatitis, they are dying of cancer, they are dying of asthma, they are dying of depression, they are dying of diabetes, they are dying. So we realize that we have had people who have been hauled to a wheelchair because some treatment has affected their bones. They have osteopenia or osteoporosis, and we explain that because we are doctors, so that people understand what we are talking about. So important to note that as we age, and for me, aging is not 40 and above. Our babies who are born with HIV, they are aging from the day they are born. So they are on this treatment from day 1 to 15 to 19 to 25. So that is 20 years on the same drug. So what are the complications that come? And we need to be deliberate to check what this causes.
That has been quite interesting. So if I'm to try to recap, you first of all talked about what HIV itself does. You talked about the inflammation, and the inflammation spans across actually the entire body. So HIV affects you from the hair to the toe. From the hair, you are having neuroinflammation. And so you may suffer with a number of mental health related disorders, talk of depression, talk of increasing the risk of you suffering from anxiety and other disorders. Then you also talked about the medication itself as well, the side effects associated with it. But the other thing which probably is important actually is the lifestyle as well of people who have HIV. And yes, we have fought stigma a lot, but it is still a major issue in our society. And I believe it has, over the years, strongly been impacting on the lifestyle of these people, the ability to even go out and exercise, going out to run. For some people is a challenge who are dealing with stigma and so on. But I thank you so much for that submission. Allow us to have a short commercial break, and we shall be right back to continue this discussion.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Since 2015, Quiz Mali Production has been at the forefront of media innovation. Our passion for storytelling and creativity has driven us to deliver over 100 successful projects, making a lasting impact on the industry. With 4 highly acclaimed TV shows, we've become a household name, bringing quality content to your screens. At Quiz Mali Production, we specialize in content creation, digital media marketing, media buying and documentaries. We plan corporate events, provide top-notch photography and videography services, and offer seamless translations and live streams for your every need. Join the hundreds of satisfied clients who trust us to bring their visions to life. Quiz Mali Production, your partner in media excellence. Visit us at Quiz Mali and let's create something amazing together.
Looking for instant excitement? The Uganda National Lottery Spin for Cash game is now available online. Wherever you are, you can join the excitement for just 500, 1,000 and 2,000 Uganda shillings. Don't miss out. Register now on www.nationallottery.go.ug for a chance to win your share of 2 billion instantly. What are you waiting for? Play Spin for Cash now, anytime, anywhere. Ituba is the proud operator of the Uganda National Lottery. Dream, play, win. Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. This is the DOCtalk Show, proudly brought to you by Quiz Mali Productions. In case you would like to actively engage in this discussion, please contact us via the number displayed on the screen or via our Twitter handle. It's also important to note that we are streaming live on YouTube, so you can reach out to us even there. The topic of discussion this evening is NCDs in HIV, or non-communicable diseases in HIV. And Daniel had earlier told us, basically, an NCD is a disease which you cannot physically transmit from one person to another. That is the most basic, I think, description we can get of what an NCD is. And it brings us to the next question, Dr. Daniel, that why are people living with HIV at a higher risk of developing non-communicable diseases?
Yeah, thank you. I think we gave examples of non-communicable diseases. I emphasize the commonest. The first one is cancer. The second one is diabetes. The others are cardiovascular diseases, the diseases that affect the blood vessels, the heart and the blood vessels. That also includes stroke, includes heart attack, it includes the clots you have. All those are non-communicable diseases. And we notice that they are becoming a significant problem, and most especially as people age. So they're becoming a significant problem, not among HIV positive persons only, but in the general population. We need to note that, number one, so that there is no, we don't associate everybody with an NCD. People can easily infer that most likely they have HIV, which may not be true. There's a general increase in these non-communicable diseases, and they are attributable. That increase in general, which affects people living with HIV and people not living with HIV, it is that we are now inactive. Physical inactivity, a sedentary lifestyle. You wake up from morning, you're in office, seated like this, they bring you a cup of tea, I'll talk about the tea, and you drive back home. So that sedentary lifestyle, people have become exotic, advanced, richer. They no longer have to dig the whole day for their food. So that sedentary lifestyle, a housewife will sit at home. The husband goes to look for money, brings the money to buy the food, to buy everything, without having to work like it were. So that is one of the risk factors. It affects people who are negative and who are positive, all of us equally. We're looking at food now. Because of our lifestyle now, we see food, Coca-Cola. When I was young, back in my village in Ubari, Kashari, Coca-Cola was really...
Christmas.
See, Christmas. You saw it once in a blue moon, on special occasions, when relatives came from Kampala with their pickups full of... But now, Coca-Cola is a guest drink. Every home you go to, they will send for Coca-Cola. They will even send for biscuits. So that change in feeding, there's more junk food available. We see that feeding lifestyles have changed. We have taken on feeding lifestyles that put our people at risk across, including the village. The village women are drinking soda, my friend. Yeah. And when you go to the hospital, you'll find very many village women. Our grandmothers there with diabetes. They are there, very many. So there is a whole increase in the risk of NCDs across the general population. Yeah. But as you say, specifically to people living with HIV. In addition, so I talked about physical inactivity, I talked about our diet. We have tried to fight tobacco. Tobacco is one of the leading causes of so many cancers. Alcohol abuse is the least talked about. Alcohol abuse, like you said, HIV affects every organ in the body. Equally, alcohol affects every organ in the body. And it's one of the leading causes of cancer. But nobody talks about it. I guess maybe because the government gets so much money from alcohol. But it's a leading cause of cancers and cardiovascular diseases. So, and alcohol really is everywhere within Uganda. It's a common drink. So many people can. So when I look at those four, and of course air pollution, when I look at those five, they are responsible for the general increase in non-communicable diseases in our country, affecting both people living with HIV and the general population. So, but secondly, unique to people living with HIV, the first risk factor is the one you talked about, the inflammation. That HIV causes inflammation. There is additional inflammation that you will not get if you don't have HIV. The inflammation of the pancreas, which later leads you to the pancreas not functioning normally, effectively, failing to produce the enzymes it's supposed to produce, and maybe you're tipped off to more likely develop diabetes. But we see that people who have HIV, there is a higher risk of having other diseases like hepatitis C.
Yeah.
We have seen some of the treatments that we give them, at least the older treatments that used to cause fat depots, abdominal fat depots, and that kind of, we used to call it lipodystrophy.
Yes.
So those who had relatives who used to take HIV treatment in the 2000s, yes, the late 2000s there, 2006, 2008, would give the medication we had last time to cause abdominal fat depots. Find somebody with so much fat on the back, the legs are smaller. So that lipodystrophy was also associated with a high risk of contracting HIV. But some of the drugs themselves, for example, our best drug which we have, the dolutegravir, so much research has shown that it can cause to a little increase in blood sugar, but not in a very big position, a very big proportion of the population. But it increases the blood sugar. That means if you are at a stage, when you're at the age, it can tip you off and you get your diagnosis of diabetes. But still, the dolutegravir remains the best drug we currently have. So the fact that the dolutegravir can cause you diabetes can tip you off in a very small proportion. It's not indication for us to stop the dolutegravir. Still remains the effective drug that gives us the benefits that we want. We have seen cancers. So many people who are not on HIV treatment, they develop AIDS-related cancers. So number one, HIV reduces immunity.
Yeah.
We need that immunity for the body to fight off cancer, the development of cancer, and some of the germs that cause cancer. So we see the reduced immunity, we see an increase, for example, in cancer of the cervix.
Yes.
There are more women with cancer of the cervix who are HIV positive compared to the women who are HIV negative. And that's mainly because the HIV reduces your immunity, your body's ability to fight off the cancer. For example, the cancer of the cervix is caused by the human papillomavirus. So the reduced immunity creates an environment for that virus also to do its damage, that kind of thing. So the reduced immunity encourages the development of cancers like Kaposi sarcoma. So it's a mixture of factors, but in general, there is a general increase in non-communicable diseases. For all those people, including people HIV negative, to be worried, because if you are going to go for a funeral next week, it is most likely somebody who died of non-communicable disease.
From what I have picked, there is a complex interplay between HIV and NCDs generally. Because while you were talking, you talked about alcohol, for example.
Yes, of course.
And personally, I was thinking from a completely different perspective. So I thought of someone who has, for example, just got a diagnosis of HIV. They are stressed, they are feeling low. Guess what they'll run to?
The bottle.
He'll run to the bottle. And that is already a problem. So
Yes,
it
a
is,
complex mechanism, absolutely.
it is quite complex.
Yeah.
You were talking about the drugs, and I wanted to ask Flavia, do you think HIV medications can actually have a part to play in the increase of NCDs within the context of HIV?
Thank you very much, Andrew and Daniel, for clarifying and also linking and also trying to highlight the risk factors for people living with HIV in light of non-communicable diseases. There is a significant risk of being on HIV medication for long and development of NCDs. So we talked about, Daniel here clarified about DTG. We do know that a number of people who could have been enrolled and were on the shelf, we are on the margin, have actually gone into absolute diabetes. And they are diabetics now because a number of times we are switching those screening the screening that is required before a person is initiated, many of us don't undergo them. So we can only use the history. There is no history of diabetes. We keep, assuming. So some of these screenings, we request that they be done. And, you remember the evidence which was making people to dream negative, frightful things. So if a person is already anxious and they start getting nightmares, it can even worsen. It will worsen. And already people with HIV are people who live on the margins of anxiety because you are taking medication. You have a child probably also with HIV 1, 2, 3, sometimes in a family. You have this caring role. Sometimes there is gender-based violence. So the mental health challenges often also are increased by some of the equivalents at that time. People had to bring them back and say, I can't take it because I can't sleep. So you already have issues of sleep, insomnia, failure to sleep because you're anxious. So you get these kinds of treatments, even those treatments which we were told to take at night.
Yes.
If they cause you to sleep, take at night. But if they cause you to not sleep, take during the day.
Yes.
So you can see the relationship. Then also the issue of drugs like tenofovir. It's good also, but we do know that it weakens and it weakens the bonds because I think it also causes calcium loss. So if you're already at the edge of low calcium because you're aging and you emit it through excretion, and then you also get VTG and your calcium is not stable. So most likely that can cause also, we have had people who have been in a wheelchair because of tenofovir. But we know that there are alternatives. I, for one, I had cervical cancer, so I did a hysterectomy. I removed my reproductive organs. So my worry is, how do I sustain myself against those diseases? So I've had to try to reconsider my feeding habits, try to do exercise. And
Flavia, you are taking us to a section which we actually shouldn't rush, because we all agree here that prevention is better than cure at the time. So we shall give a lot of time to that discussion. Allow us to have a brief commercial break and we shall be right back to continue with this discussion.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
The Uganda People's Defense Forces proudly announces the launch of the first ever UPDF-CDF Interforces Drill Competition as we honor the spirit of unity, discipline and teamwork. This historic competition will feature individual and team drill routines, synchronization and formation changes, an inter-service championship and many more exciting activities and awards to be won. The launch of the first edition of the UPDF-CDF Interforces Drill Competition will take place on the 15th February 2025 from 8 a.m. at the Uganda People's Defense Forces Sports Stadium in Bombo. The guest of honor will be the Chief of Defense Forces, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, alongside other high-profile guests. The launch event will kickstart a series of activities leading up to the main competition, which will take place from the 12th to the 14th May 2025. For more details, please call 0392 947455. Long live the Uganda People's Defense Forces.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. This is the DOCtalk Show, proudly brought to you by Quiz Mali Productions. To be part of the discussion this evening, you can send in your submission via the number displayed on the screen or via our Twitter handle. We left off on a point where Flavia was actually taking us through the various ways in which the medications we take to manage HIV can actually cause or exacerbate the risk of developing NCDs. And I wanted to lay there a special disclaimer that there is no medicine you'll take which has no side effects. Even money has side effects. When some people get money, they stop greeting neighbors and so on and so forth. So it shouldn't be a surprise. But at the end of the day, you weigh the benefits of having money or taking HIV medication versus not taking. And I believe anyone out there would rather have money, if I may take the discussion that way. We are going to continue on with the discussion. We agree that prevention is always better than cure, and at times is much cheaper. So I would like to continue from this point and ask Daniel, what practical advice do you have for the viewer out there on how he or she can prevent NCDs if they have HIV?
Thank you. I think the prevention of NCD, number one, is what everybody would need to do to prevent HIV. So number one, we have talked about alcohol. It's a key risk factor across board. So if you can minimize alcohol intake, in fact, eliminate, it would be wise. Significantly reduces your risk of contracting NCD. Nobody talks about alcohol. That time there was a bill in Parliament sponsored by the Honorable former Minister, Sarah Pendi. I think it died a natural death, but I wished she had talked to me nicely. Because she had a strong case. NCDs and alcohol are inseparable. So we need to really, and we did something for tobacco. Tobacco is a research pointed it out that all tobacco smoking is a key contributor to the non-communicable disease burden. The government of Uganda, our parliament, passed legislation to stop the misuse of tobacco, advertisement of tobacco, smoking spaces. This air no longer smells of tobacco like it used to be long ago. And that's because the government has put in place regulations to control exposure to tobacco smoke. But still, we still have some tobacco. How I wish we could do the same for alcohol, to regulate alcohol access and use, because it's equally dangerous like tobacco. The third one is physical activity. We need to be up and about, to dig every day. So if you're a parent, I often take my children to school, I see so many obese kids. Our parents, sometimes they would ask us to, when I was in high school, the school every Wednesday would send us on an afternoon to go and dig. A Wednesday afternoon, there were no classes. So you would walk a distance and go and dig, and you would wonder, what are we digging? We have never even harvested it. But I think it was deliberate to kill that monotony, to create some physical activity, meaningful physical activity. And that's what to build a culture, of course, of humility and being able to have your own garden and take care of it, that kind of thing. So let us promote physical activity. Sitting the whole day at home, good enough, you have become rich, but it will kill you. You will not die of poverty, you will die of sitting at home. So you need to do daily physical activity of more than 30 minutes. Vigorous physical activity to see sweat come down. If you are not doing that, you will most likely one of these days be diagnosed with hypertension, with a cardiovascular disease, a clot or something, one of these days. The best way to prevent HIV-related non-communicable disease, it starts with prevention. Once you contract HIV, you may take medication, but now we have seen you are at risk of having diabetes at the same time. You are at the risk of having cancer. So if you don't fear HIV, at least the young person outside there fear cancer, fear diabetes. So we would want to think that the best way to minimize the risk of non-communicable diseases associated with HIV is prevention, using the standard ABC, abstinence, be faithful, use condoms. But I have emphasized that for men, we see when we look at our statistics that men who are not circumcised, they're the ones significantly contracting HIV. When I look at young men who are not yet married, they contributed close to 8% of all new HIV infections we had last year. But the uncircumcised young man contributed 7.5 of that 8%. So which means the circumcised man contributed so little. And the explanation is simple. Most people, especially young people, they are going to go without nothing anyway.
Yes.
It is better. Circumcision is not bulletproof, but it's better from the start you are armed with the 60% it provides. Because the other option is that you are going to go with nothing anyway. So be armed with that 60% in the pocket. When you make a mistake, like many young people do, that 60% is very impactful at population level. So secondly, so avoiding HIV. But in another one, test for HIV. We have noticed that when we test and start people on antiretroviral drugs, the risk of cancers, HIV-related cancers, is almost wiped out. But the problem, so many young men are shying away from testing. They come when it is too late. They have developed Kaposi sarcoma, which is a shame in this age. So test. Let's go for testing. We know our HIV status. Those who are HIV positive, run. And we give you treatment. We have treatment, enough treatment. In spite of what is going on in the air, we're still calling on you. Test in time, come for treatment. But if you test you're negative, the best way to avoid the cancer, the heart disease, the depression she talks about, the diabetes associated with HIV is to avoid contracting HIV in the first place.
Wow. Thank you so much. I have picked a lot from that discussion. The way I understand this is prevention is not just about what you can do before the disease sets in, but we actually divide it into primary prevention, which actually should be the focus of most of our interventions. Then we have secondary prevention, where, yes, we acknowledge that you have hypertension, you have diabetes, but we treat it aggressively to prevent complications from coming in. But we also acknowledge the fact that there are people who actually come to seek help when things have gone out of hand. They've developed complications. That is the tertiary prevention now, where we are preventing the complications from worsening. We are rehabilitating you to help you to live a life of dignity. So from your discussion, I picked a lot about lifestyle modifications generally, where you advised us on exercising. You advised us on decreasing of alcohol intake, harmful practices such as smoking, and so on and so forth. And then the other bit I noted is the need to junk food. Chips and chicken. I know there are people who are going to be annoyed with us, but these are things we must talk about. And the other aspect is screening actually early. If we found that you are pre-hypertensive, I believe we can actually put in place measures to prevent you from tipping over the edge possible. And the other aspect which we often ignore is our mental health. Because it is your mental health which will actually drive you to either adhere to medication, to go and, interact with peers in activities which will build you if you have HIV and so on. And so I think it's important for us to also place emphasis on avenues of building mental resilience, managing depression, and so on and so forth. But I thank you so much for the exhaustive discussion you gave us. We are going to go for a brief commercial break. When we come back, we are going to dig into the experience Flavia has garnered over years Daniel, you spoke something very important, that why should we be having the discussion of NCDs in the context of HIV? We can prevent HIV. So my question, Flavia, for you as we are going for the break is, what can we do to end HIV itself? Allow us to have a short commercial break and we shall be right back. Thank you.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Coming soon on UBC.
Are you ready to take your fitness journey to the next level? Join the Sweat Squad by Sion. Coming soon to UBC TV. With expert guidance, cutting-edge workouts, and a supportive community. You'll be unstoppable.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. This is the DOCtalk Show, and the topic of discussion this evening is NCDs, or non-communicable diseases, in the context of HIV. To join the discussion, you can reach out via the number displayed on the screen or via our Twitter handle. We left off on a point where we concurred that there is no reason why we should be having discussions about NCDs in the context of HIV in the first place, but HIV is a reality of our existence. And so it's important to talk about how we can end this scourge once and for all. And Flavia, I threw that hard question to you, that what can we do to end HIV once and for all?
That is a little bit more, let me say, the irony is that you can't wish away HIV, Andrew.
Yes.
And that some of us have gone 40 years with HIV. I think what we need to talk about is how do we end AIDS now, and advanced HIV disease, which is rotating around the opportunistic infections. The only way to end HIV now, if you wanted to do it now once and for all, is to get me and the other 1.5 million people, maybe you kill us.
Exactly.
Then you
let us not have that discussion.
We'll do that. But what I'm trying to arrive at is that we cannot wish away HIV now, because we have 1.5 million people living with HIV in this country.
Yes.
And that the best to end AIDS by 2030, as the global guidance is that we ensure that the government has the right prevention and treatment programs, but above all, the mainstay of ending AIDS is social support and protection. As long as we still have gender-based violence and we have defilement, which happened in 2023, of 12,000 defiled people in this country. And when it is defilement, it means they are under 18. Right?
Kindly repeat that shocking bit of info for me. You have said
1,000 defiled reported cases.
Girls.
We need it's majority are girls, but the police crime report of 2023 indicated 12,000 defilements. The annual HIV report last year, 2023, we haven't got to last year. 2023 reported 12,000 adults and young people acquiring HIV. And of these 12,000, 9,000 are young women, 3,000 are men. So the only way for me as an individual, as the person who has been with HIV for all this time, if we had the right social support and protection bits in this country, and we are talking about the budget for gender is the least. The budget for police, you see the way police are struggling. That's why even cases disappear. There is no social support and protection. And social support is about the basics, Maslow's hierarchy. The basics: food, water, health, medical, you have shelter, you have clothing, you have education, you have affection, you belong, you are not being stigmatized, and above all, you are protected. The system protects you. For me, we shall end AIDS by 2030. But short of that, we can only try to continue educating the communities about what HIV is, how it is spread. They are going to continue to give us treatment. We shall swallow and be non-suppressed. But when there is no affection, we shall see people being lost to follow up. And the more they get lost to follow up, they are unsuppressed, and then they are easily able to spread. And this, right now, about 200,000 who are with HIV have not yet even been discovered. They don't know, they are moving. For them, they don't even maybe use a condom. We need to look for those people. And the way to do it, touch us. We go down there and we talk about what we are, so that people can be comfortable and identify with us. Belong. Know there is somebody where they can belong. As we continue to talk about the government investing in preventive innovations like PrEP, like the long-term injectable, the cabotegravir, and the vaginal rings, those ones which are preventive, because we don't want our children to again reach our age of 23 and they find they're HIV positive. We want to see the government investing more. But one pointer, for me, this can't go without saying. The government, again, it's your role to protect your people. So if we have a budget which is only 7.1%, it's not able to meet half of what is required, and we are dependent on donors. We want to meet it. And the word primary health care, let us have the education on every TV and radio talking about prevention, prevention, prevention. Because we have stopped, we have become complacent. Everybody thinks when they get HIV, they can get treatment. That treatment is now even threatened by the donors saying we are tired of supporting, you can use that. And it's expensive to invest in prevention, but cheaper along the long term than now building a cancer institute, 101 stories, building an HIV ward, building a TB ward. Yet if they invested in primary health care, ensuring that health center tools are equipped to provide the sickness, the prevention. And if we talk about NCDs, if we have a glucometer and a high blood pressure machine at that health center too, we are going to avert very many. But also teach people you can go and do cancer, tumor markers. People take blood and they are checked. And then we continue to do our physicals. Just think about doing the physicals and let it be talked about, because we have become comfortable. So for me, prevention, we want to prevent, social support and protection. Stigma reduction will be the mainstay of this HIV prevention if we want to end AIDS by 2030.
While you were talking, that issue of defilement of 12,000 young ladies hit me differently. And
those are reported.
I had, yes, there are very many which are not reported, resolved locally, and all that. And I had a very dangerous thought in my mind, actually. I think that probably our laws are very soft on the defilers. At one point, a member of parliament had even suggested castration. I think I'm not advocating for that per se, but I think we need to enact stronger laws against issues such as defilement and rape, because our country is going astray if we continue along that path. I would like to thank you so much for having spared time to be with us. Daniel, would you mind giving the viewer out there parting shot in a minute?
Thank you for staying with us. I think what is downing upon our country are two key epidemics. The non-communicable disease epidemic of cancer, hypertension, diabetes. It's real. But I am from the HIV sector. There's an epidemic of AIDS. If we ignore any of those two, then we are at a disadvantage. We risk reversing our gains in the HIV epidemic if we draw our attention away from it. So I would want to encourage our listeners, HIV is still real, HIV still kills. We don't have enough money to put every gun on treatment. Do whatever you can do to avoid contracting HIV. And do whatever you can do to avoid contracting non-communicable diseases. Both of them, often once you've contracted them, they're difficult to reverse. Actually, HIV is reversible. So I thank you for listening to us.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and thank you so much, Flavia, for sharing all the insights our listeners and viewers have received. At this moment, I believe that he who has ears has heard. I reiterate that your life has no spare. So please take care. Thank you.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
UBC, inspiring Uganda. This week on UBC.
I am Captain Emmanuel Kidega. I'm the site engineer for Chotera District. This is Ndolo Health Center 2.